Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this video. Welcome to your Nottingham Forest news. I hope you are having a fantastic day. In today's video, we will be talking about return of the Mac, or should I say return of the Spence. Will Spence be coming back to Forest in January? There are also two Brazilians who have been linked to Forest, one confirmed, one has strong rumour links, and I'll give you the details on that today, as well as everything else other to do with Nottingham Forest, which will include an FA charge raised against Steve Cooper. I'll give you the details of that today. Before we get into it, guys, as always, please do be kind enough, if you wouldn't mind, to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and if you'd like to become a member and support the channel for only 99p and gets all your channel perks, please hit that join button down below. Let's jump into the news and let's start with the headlines of Djed Spence. Firstly, before we go into the details of Djed Spence, what I'd like to see from you guys down below in the comments or in the live chat is, would you take Djed Spence back? And do you think there's room to accommodate him currently at the moment in the Nottingham Forest squad? Let me know down below. But let's get into it. It is clear to see that Djed Spence is out of favour at Tottenham Hotspurs. In fact, Djed Spence was out of favour at Tottenham Hotspurs before he even walked through the door. Why? Because Conte was not the one who sanctioned the transfer. It came from Daniel Levy, whatever the guy's name is. He wanted the signing more so than Conte. In fact, Conte has been on the record to say, basically, I'm paraphrasing, it wasn't his signing. And it's clear to see that with the lack of opportunities our beloved Djed Spence has had in the lily white shirt. He's had about 5 minutes against Forest when we played them earlier on in the season, and then he came on more recently against Everton as well and had a little cameo. Outside of that, I think he'll probably start for Spurs against Forest in the Carabao Cup, but it's clear to see that Emerson Royale, who is crap for some reason, is ahead of him, as well as Doherty as well. So Djed Spence is third in the pecking order. Now, the stories are that he will be allowed to leave on loan in January, and obviously the club being connected with him is Nottingham Forest. I don't think these rumours are strong or true enough. Now, I would still love Spence back, even though I think Serge Aurier has started really well. For me, Djed Spence provides a link-up play with Brennan Johnson like we haven't seen since last season, and he brings out the best in Brennan Johnson as well. Would I then automatically put Djed Spence in the number 2 shirt ahead of Aurier? I know he wears number 24, but we go crazy in the comments, but you know what I mean. Not necessarily. But do I want Djed Spence back? Yes, I do. I think he was one of our best players last season, but more importantly, he brought Brennan Johnson to levels above as well with his overlapping and his link-up play. Do I see this happening is the question. The answer to that is probably a no. Now, I think we can still do it because we only have one loanee from the Premier League. We can have only 4 active loanees at any one time. So we do have space for that. I think if my math is right, I'm sure you guys will correct me down below. But we already have, if you have a look at the right back position, we're quite blessed with cover there. We have Serge Aurier, we have Nico Williams, we have Biancone who can play there, as well as 1 or 2 of the centre-backs who can convert over to right-hand side. So do we need to go even top heavier on the right-hand side position? I don't think so. But could this be a loan signing that's done in sentimentality rather than anything else? I still don't see it, guys. I still don't see it. I hope I'm wrong, because I'd love nothing more than to see the great man return back to the City ground. But as far as I can see, logically speaking, it wouldn't work. It's too much of an imbalance would happen on the right-hand side. Look, think about it like this. We have 3 right backs. We have 3 left backs, yeah? That's 6 players. Are we then going to put a 7th player in there who's an orthodox right back as well? I just think it goes too much. At some point, the sentimentality will have to stop. For it to happen, we may need to move on one of the right backs. So maybe you'll see Biancone loaned out in the January period. Because let's face it, he hasn't been given his opportunities. I can't see Nico Williams being loaned out. So the only one I could see being on that chopping list target would be Biancone. That's the only way I would see it working. But I don't see it happening. Let me know down below though. One, do you want him? Two, do you think it could happen? For me, I think it's a non-starter, but I could be wrong. Okay, let's move on to the Brazilian link Pablo Maia, who is a so-called Wonderkid, and he's a player I've seen a little bit of, not too much. The reason I've seen a bit of him was because over the summer he was heavily linked to the likes of Manchester United and a couple of other European heavyweights as well. Nothing emerged out of it, but he is, and what they are saying in the reports are true, he is a bit of a Wonderkid out in Brazil, and a lot of people are scouting him. The rumours currently are stronger with the likes of Nottingham Forest and Fulham, where they're tagging him for about £9 million. He is a great player and a player you would want in your squad for the future, not necessarily straight away. You have to remember that these South American Wonderkids, they're all called Wonderkids when they come over from South America. But more so importantly than that is the jump in division, in pedigree, in class, in the league that they will be coming into. So with all due respect to South American football, yes, it's flary, yes, it's great on the eye, yes, it's a fantastic watch. But jumping to the Premier League isn't always that simple. When you add on top of that a £9 million price tag that's been slapped on him, it becomes more and more risky for a club to go ahead and complete this deal on an untested youngster. Should Forest go for him? Hell yeah, why not? You know, I'm that guy who says let's operate an open door policy, especially with exciting midfielders like this. However, the thing we need to remember is that Scarpa is coming to Forest in the January transfer window, who is a lot older and a lot more experienced, but plays in a similar position and has had an outstanding season so far this year in his current club. So do I expect us to get the exact same replacements as what we're about to get through the door? Scarpa? No. We've also got Aguilera, who's going to be coming in at the end of the year, our loanee, our 16-year-old loanee as well. So the future, though, what I want to talk about is the future is looking bright with these young talents emerging who Forest have already got the ink dry on their signature on contracts with. So it does look quite good. I still would be quite tempted by this guy, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. He is a good player. The fact that there are bigger clubs who were interested in him over the summer is always a good indicator that there is some quality behind what he can offer. But it's a bit of a steep risk, in my opinion, for £9 million to secure him. Probably what you'll find is it would be a £3 to £4 million fee and then a crap load of add-ons bolted on depending on appearances, assists, goals, and things like that. Maybe international appearances and things like that. So watch this space. Look, I don't really want to do transfer videos yet because we are a long way off the January transfer market. But there is clear talks about it. And as always, we want to bring you the news and tell you what's going on at Nottingham Forest. Take it with a pinch of salt. The only one that is definitely confirmed at the moment is Scarpa, who will be coming. And if you haven't seen anything of him, we will be doing a whole feature video on him closer to the time as well, because he is actual quality. But can he make that jump into the Premier League? That's going to be the interesting question. But let me know what you think. Finally, let's move on to Steve Cooper and talk about this charge that the FA have slapped him with. It is in breach of FA rule E31, which I'm sure you are all familiar with. And this is following the Premier League match against Wolves, which was on the 15th of October. And I'll read out the statement. It's alleged that the manager's comment during the post-match interview constitute improper conduct in that they imply bias and or question the integrity of the referee and or bring the game into disrepute. And Steve has till Thursday, the 27th of October, to provide a response. Now, his actual comments weren't very long, and we'll talk about them in a second, but let me read them out to you. We know the referee, says Steve, well from last season. We had him in the Championship. We know the difference of what you can get with him, so we knew that this was part of what we had to deal with today. And I think there's a couple of other comments where he said it kind of built into the preparations of what we were doing for the game. Now, for me, it's... Look, you could comment on a referee's hairstyle, and the next thing you're going to get is the letter from the FA bringing you into disrepute. And I do think, and we discussed this yesterday on the Forest Forum, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was yesterday's video. Check out Ant's rant. Beautiful, man. Beautiful, man. Anyway, so yeah, what were we talking about? Steve Cooper. Yeah, so in terms of this, look, the problem managers have is anytime they open their mouth against a ref, they have no chance of coming out on top of this one. And it's very likely Coops is going to end up with a fine and a slap on the wrist about this. Is it okay for them to open their mouths? Look, we talked about it yesterday, but anytime a camera is slapped under a manager's face just post football match, there's always going to be raw emotion, raw thoughts, etc., especially when there's been some controversial decisions like the penalty. It was against Pablo in that instance as well, where they took 200 minutes to review it. So you can understand it. But is it okay for refs to have complete immunity from criticism from managers? After all, post any match, the punditries on the TV shows will always talk about a ref's performance. You never see the FA writing to them. I know the circumstances are different. But why is it okay for managers to come out and be allowed to maybe criticize their own players, the opponent's players, the manager, etc., but the refs are so protected? Refs really should be held to account. It is very hard to do. It's very, very hard, as we mentioned in the forum yesterday. I've tried reffing matches myself at under 12 levels, and even that, you will find that after 10 minutes, your concentration lapses, you miss an incident, etc. So I do have sympathies with refs, but there has to be an accountability, because there's no point in allowing them this blanket cover of immunity, because it just doesn't work. It doesn't help the game at all. So in my opinion, a ref should be interviewed after a match or on a panel the next day, as suggested yesterday, where they just talk about it. Look, it doesn't even have to be an interview. It could be a statement where they maybe go through their reffing notes, where they say, you know, incident at X minutes. This is what I saw. This is the reason I issued this card. This is when it went to VAR, or VAR were in my ear to say it. At least then we have a little bit of open communications from the refs to the fans. It's the other thing that really bugs me as well, and I'm going to turn into Ant in a second, is that there is communications that are shared between VAR and the ref and the people in the commentary boxes. So, for example, if it's a Sky match, the likes of Martin Tyler, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, they get it in their ear and they can hear the exact conversation going on between Stockley Park and the referees. Why isn't that mic opened up over the airwaves so we can see what's being discussed between the two parties? And therefore, when incidents like the Wolves one come up, we can hear the conversation that's happening, and no conspiracy needs to be worried about in terms of what's being said between the two parties. Especially that Wolves one. It honestly did take about 4 or 5 minutes for them to clarify it up. What was that conversation going on between the two parties? Had we been able to hear that, maybe we'd feel less aggrieved about it. But that's just my opinion on it. Please let me know your thoughts on it down below. That will wrap up your Forest news for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to going through all your comments and seeing your thoughts on Spence, on the Brazilians, and on Steve Cooper's FA charge as well. Before you go, as always, please do, if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and become a member and support us for 99p by hitting that join button. Thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you on the next video, and come on, you Reds!